Welcome back to the channel. My name is Emory. This channel is dedicated to helping you get better at backpacking. So if you're into that kind of thing, consider sticking around, subscribe, or just check back on the channel for new videos. Today, I want to answer the mail on if it is safe to backpack with a baby. I see this question come up a lot. I have two little ones at home, and my wife and I actually took our oldest backpacking when she was only 9 months old. It was a personal goal of mine, and it went really well. We hiked 3 miles in, 3 miles out. So I thought that I would take a minute to just address this question of whether or not it's safe to do so. As always, there are links in the video description to anything that I mentioned in this video, to include the website, the podcast, and my beginner backpacking course. So be sure to check those out. Okay, so is it safe to backpack with your baby? That is a great question, and it really depends on you as an individual. There's really no way for me to answer that question for you because your skill set is different than my skill set. We are all different. We're all at a different stage in our backpacking journey. But for me, yes, it is safe. When we took my daughter out for her first backpacking trip, again, she was 9 months old. My wife was capable and is an outdoorsy person. I have a lot of backpacking experience. I know how to make decisions in the backcountry. So for us, the risk was very, very low. Not only that, but we didn't really do anything crazy. We went 3 miles into a spot that I've been to multiple times. So there were no questions as to what was going to happen out there. My opinion is, if you are someone that is asking this question of whether or not it is safe to go backpacking with your baby, it's probably not at this point. Most people are already answering that question for themselves. Like, I never asked that question of myself, like, is this safe to do? I already knew that it was because I have the skills to do it. So if you fall into the bucket of I'm watching this video and I'm asking that question, don't feel bad. Just work on your skills and know that maybe right now it's not a good time to take your kid backpacking. So start with going hiking, start with going car camping, and slowly build up those skills in the outdoors with your baby. And on the side, working on your own backpacking skills to where it turns out to be no question at all whether or not it's safe. If you do decide that for you, backpacking with a baby is safe, I want to give you a little bit of advice in order to ensure that you guys all have a good time and no one ends up hating life in the middle of the night. That's the worst thing that would happen. And yeah, let's just try to avoid that. So I have about 4 tips for you to consider taking into account when you go on your first backpacking trip with your baby. The first one is, don't go crazy. Make it super easy. Remember that this trip really isn't about you or your significant other. It's about the baby and its experience, even though it might not remember it. But a 10-minute hike for a child or a baby is a huge adventure. So you don't need to be going 10 miles in. You could literally hike for 15 minutes, camp, call it a night, get those reps in, and have them have their adventure. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. Number 2, go somewhere you already know so there's no questions of whether or not there's water or resources or shelter or anything like that. The more familiar you are with the area, the better it is going to be for you and your family. So go somewhere that you know and you're familiar with, and then slowly build up after a while to going to places that are unknown and unknown trail conditions. Number 3, make sure you're going when the weather is nice. It's not going to be snowing, not going to be windy or rainy or stormy, and that there's resources nearby. Go somewhere where there's water. You're not hauling water everywhere, and you're not going to this barren landscape unless that's all you have access to. The point here is go somewhere that has resources during good weather so you mitigate all risks of a bad or dangerous scenario. Number 4, give yourself plenty of time. Getting up and going with a baby is a lot of work. If you have one or you know someone that has one, it's a lot of work. So give yourself plenty of time. Don't be beating the clock, beating the sun, or anything like that. Give yourself plenty of time to get to the trailhead, get to where you're going, have time to set up camp so you're not pushed for time in the dark. You don't want to be setting up with a baby in the dark. The less you're pressed for time, the better of a time you're going to have. And lastly, this is probably the number 1 tip. Do not force it. I know I said I had 4, but this is the number 5. Do not force it. Let's say you get to the trailhead. You drive an hour and you get to the trailhead and baby's upset. It's not feeling well. It's going to hell. Call it a day. You don't need to force it. You can always come back. I have bailed on trips plenty of times when everything starts adding up not in your favor. Always take assessment of what's going on, especially when you have a baby with you. And if they're not happy when you get to the trailhead, it's okay. You can try again another day. Maybe just go camp for the night on the side of the road. Maybe go grab a burger. Maybe just go for a hike and come back another day and try it another time. Or maybe the weather turned. You don't need to go backpacking. You want to go backpacking, and we want to have a good experience. So put those odds in your favor and do not push it. Always be willing to back out of a scenario that's not adding up correctly. So is backpacking with your baby safe? Well, yes and no. It all depends on you and the things we've covered in this video, your skill set, the weather, all of that stuff, but specifically your skill set and what you're willing to deal with and what you're capable of. For me and my wife, yes, it's safe up to a certain extent. There's just certain trails and conditions I won't take my kids out in because I want it to be not only safe, but I want it to be a good time for them. So make sure that you're taking all this into account. If you don't have the skills, work on the skills. You can get better. Go solo backpacking, go with friends, learn as much as you can until you get to the point where you're not questioning whether or not it's safe with your baby. You just know because you have the skill set. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, let me know in the comments below. If you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that for backpacking with a baby, or comments on what I've covered in this video, leave them down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on this topic. I know it's kind of weird, so let's all navigate this one together. If you're new to backpacking and you want to learn those backpacking skills, I have a backpacking course and a podcast and a website, all of which are linked down below. If you're headed out on an adventure, especially with a little one, be safe, make great decisions, and we'll see you next time.